Do you also have many areas in machine learning or topics of coding that you would like to improve on, but you can't decide which one of those you would like to study first? In my personal experience, this ends up in one of two possible scenarios. One, you study a little bit of everything, but after a few months you get frustrated because you don't feel like you're making progress in much of anything. Or two, you end up overwhelmed by having to make a decision and then you procrastinate and watch YouTube. If you've never experienced this, then you're definitely the lucky one, because I have experienced this a lot. Earlier this month, I decided to do something about it by setting myself a challenge. And while I would recommend this in principle, I would like to take this opportunity to go over some things that went wrong and also what went well, so you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did. If you're new here, hi, I'm Sarah. I studied math and computer science, and I currently work as a data science consultant, and on this channel I talk about learning machine learning without being overwhelmed, hopefully. Okay, back to the challenge. At the start of February, I decided very spontaneously that I would set myself a challenge to overcome this decision paralysis that I just described. The idea was fairly simple. Go through a full data science project in 14 days, so a fixed time frame. And for that, I would use a data set focused on fraud detection from Kaggle, which I had been dabbling with the topic for the last few months at work too. The key concept here was the fixed time scope of 14 days, because when I'm making decisions, I'm overthinking a lot. And I'm thinking, oh, what if this is the wrong thing? What if I'm studying the wrong thing? What if I'm focusing on the wrong thing? But with only working on it for 14 days, so what if it's the wrong decision? In 14 days, I can make a new one, right? So besides the 14 days, here are some quick rules that I set for myself. I would work on it every single day. And second, I would send out daily email updates to my newsletter list about what I had been working on to hold myself accountable, and also share a more realistic portrayal of what someone who isn't a Kaggle Grandmaster can do in a fixed time frame. Rule number 3, I would not look at previous Kaggle solutions for this dataset. And rule number 4, so to say, would be to go through the full data science project pipeline. So that means data understanding, feature engineering, modeling, and also a bit of evaluation at the end. Quick side note, in that time frame, in those 2 weeks, I of course worked my normal 9-to-5 job as a data scientist, and it was also deadline week at work. If you see something wrong with this plan, then you might be right. Let's get into it. So, what ended up happening? Well, like I said, it was deadline week, and that week wrecked me, so I had to extend the challenge by almost a full week. I also only sent out 6 emails instead of the planned 14 emails. But I did finish the project. I had a model in the end that was at least partly optimized, and I learned so much. That being said, there are at least 3 things that I would do different in my next challenge or in my next project. My first mistake was not clearly defining the work hours that I would be using to work on this project. There's this saying that work always expands to fill the time that you set aside for this task. And I thought I was smart. I thought about that. And I was like, oh, I only have 14 days, so that will be fine. But 14 days is a long time if you take all 24 hours into account. And obviously I didn't have all 24 hours, but I never sat down to think about, okay, how many hours per day can I work on this project? How many free hours do I have? And how many will I realistically be able to put into this? If I had sat down and thought, okay, I will work on this project for 1 hour every day, then I would have figured out 2 things. First, working and writing an email update in 1 hour, you don't get a lot done in that time frame. And overall, 14 hours for a full data science project would probably not be enough. So next time I will definitely curb down my excitement a bit and not skip this crucial planning step of when I will work on this. The second mistake I made was having too much overhead. Writing this email update every day, or every time I wrote this email update, let's say that, it took about 1 hour. And that is just too much for the amount of time that I had to actually work on the project. Now, in theory, writing this email update was great. It allowed me to reflect on what I did, and it also allowed me to share everything with everything else, and it held me accountable. Now that I know how long it takes, I would probably aim for fewer updates to get an overall ratio of like 3 hours of work and then 1 hour of documenting and sharing. And the third mistake that I would like to mention is not setting measurable goals. Now, an argument could be made that the whole a whole data science project in 2 weeks was maybe too much to begin with, but I also didn't sit down and exactly define when each stage would be done. And if you're a perfectionist like me, there is always more work to be done. So what I would do differently in the future is probably choose a smaller scope, for example, just optimization of the model for 1 week, but I would definitely define what each stage means. For example, create 3 types of visualizations for data overview stage, or only train 2 models in the modeling stage, no matter how good they are in the end. And since this is a bit difficult, if you're going into stages or into a task or project that you have never done before, a way around this would be to just set an hourly goal, like I will work on modeling for 3 hours and then it's done. But I would definitely recommend to choose one of the two, either a clear goal like train 2 models or set aside an hourly goal for the task. And to end all of this on a positive note, let's quickly talk about 3 things that I would definitely recommend and also do the same the next time I do a challenge. The first is sharing my progress. It was definitely scary to put myself out there on something that I wasn't super comfortable with, but I would very much recommend that you share your work. And that doesn't just mean making your GitHub public, it actually means writing down what worked well for you and what didn't work well. I actually got some hugely valuable tips from this when I shared my status updates over on Instagram, for example. Someone left a comment saying, "Oh, I worked in this area before. Check out this library Imbalance Learn for this type of data set." And that was just so valuable. The second thing I would do again is setting a time limit. I did have to make some adjustment here and there, but had I not set this limit, I would probably have never started. The fixed time frame allowed me to get from the one day I will do this and this into actually being like, in the next 14 days, I will do this. And it actually got me into doing from wishful thinking. And the third and last thing I would definitely do again, hopefully, is finish the project. I had to make some adjustments, but I finished the project. I have a whole documentation of everything I did in the 14 days, and I am, first of all, very proud of that. And second of all, it allows me to reflect on the whole thing, and I can always do it better in the future. It was a challenge. The end result is not perfect, but only after we finish a thing from beginning to end, we can look at the whole process and then improve upon it in the next stage. And frankly speaking, it is not very satisfying at all to have unfinished projects lying around the place. Even if it's just in some folder, they always keep nagging you. So it's super cool to be able to wrap this up, make this reflection video, take the lessons, and then hopefully go into the next project too. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you're also planning on doing some sort of challenge or project on your own in the future, I wish you a lot of fun and good luck while following your own rules. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!